If you're going to play the game of real estate, then you really got to understand how to mitigate your risk. And that is such a bad four-letter word for so many people. Today, we're hoping to change your mind on how you view risk and how to work with risk appropriately, because ultimately, risk is the means of getting where you want to go. I'm Kris Krohn, and this is Limitless TV. Oh my gosh, I love risk, right?
Yes, risk is awesome.
How do you feel about risk?
Oh, risk is my friend.
Oh my gosh, Risk and I, we were having a sleepover the other night. We stayed up real late. Whoa, easy there.
This is how I am with risk.
Okay,
What?
you guys are really buddied out super close. Okay, friends, listen, risk equals winning. And we are going to talk about how you mitigate it and how you manage it. But there's a lot of people that are like, well, I want to win, but I don't want to risk. I'm like, for you foes, listen up carefully. If you are not willing to take risks, you cannot get where you want to actually go. So we got to talk about how you can step in and embrace risk and actually understand what it is. Because part of managing it, you got to understand what it is. And Stephen, how is it that risk actually can create a benefit for the people watching?
So risk is anything that you haven't done before. I mean, really, if I can just put a definition to it, risk is anything where you don't already know the outcome. And if you're doing anything that you have never done before, that means there's risk there. And is that risk good or bad? And this goes to the mindset, Kris, of what risk really is. Because I look at risk, and I think risk is actually good. Yeah. When I look at risk, risk equals winning. Risk equals change. Risk equals growth.
But you had to train that, because
absolutely,
that's not the world that we're brought into. We're brought into a world where risk is always identified with the wrong people, then the wrong choices, and that it's not going to be good. Yeah. And then so you live a very risk-free life. I don't take any risks, and you start realizing, wow, I also don't go anywhere.
I'm stuck in my tiny little circle here. Yeah, absolutely. So risk, if you start to look at risk and you start to identify it as something that's good, I mean, as a matter of fact, I want to talk about this for a second because I think this is really important. In the investment world, people often talk about risk. And when you talk about risk, you usually think, and just tell me if, in the comments, just comment if you resonate with this, right? In order for me to get a high return, I'm going to have what associated with it, Kris?
High risk.
High risk. And I think most people think that way, right? High return equals high risk.
But that's not how people are showing up, though. People are putting their money in ultra low risk,
yeah,
and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be financially free someday. I'm like, there's no choice you making right here that is going to equal financial freedom, because you want it all. You want no risk, but you want to be rich. And you know what? It's not real.
See, but I want to talk about that because no risk actually is more risk.
It's the biggest risk.
This is the thing that confuses me, because people think all the time, well, hey, I'm just going to put my money in my 401k, in my IRA. I'm gonna put in some stocks or some T-bills, some bonds, some low yielding CDs. That is the biggest risk of all time, Kris, because we know what happens. Kris, you and I have gone around the whole entire nation, and we've talked to thousands and thousands of people. And the reality is I don't care if you're in the top echelon of your specific environment right there. Most of you are so scared, so risk adverse, that you're pigeonholing your place into the riskiest place possible, because you know what the outcome is going to be. You're not going to have enough at retirement.
And let's do the math to just prove it real quick, and then we're going to talk about how you manage your risk, because we're going to give you 3 keys of being able to do that. First of all, let's just do the math. If I put my money and allocate some of it into a high-risk investment, then let's just say there's 2 extreme outcomes. What are they?
You win or you lose.
You win or you lose. And so people are like, well, that's risky, because, let's even give it a percentage. It's 50-50. Oh, that's super risky. 50% chance of winning, 50% of losing. But what's the alternative? If you do nothing, there is a 100% chance you will not get where you want to go. There's a 100% chance you can't get there. Would you rather have a 50% chance or a 0% chance? 50% is way less risky than
a 0% chance.
A 0% chance of getting where you go. So we just wanted to start this video off and say, hey, kick it with us. Risk, stop identifying it and throwing it in this bad, sour bucket as if it's this bad word. It is the only way for you to develop your personality, for you to meet new people, for you to get out of your comfort zone, for you to make more money. It's the secret not to money. It's the secret to everything. It's that get out of your comfort zone, and out there lies, yes, risk, but yes, reward, possibilities. And so I actually look for risk, but I look for my risks to be smart and calculable. How do I take a calculated risk And that's what comes down to managing it with these 3 top keys. And the first one
is the allocation of risk. So let's talk about this, the allocation. If you know that risk is going to be there and that it needs to be part of your growth, right? Then how do you properly allocate where you place that risk or where you make those certain decisions that could seem a little bit more risky or a little less risky?
And that comes down to your money and your own personal financial philosophy. So for example, I'm sure we've all heard, don't put all your eggs in one
basket.
So instead, here's what the risk allocation is. Let's say there is an investment opportunity, and let's say I have $100,000 to my name, and I'm like, a big opportunity come up, and it could make me a lot of money. Okay, putting all your eggs in one basket would be saying, I'm going to take $100,000 and I'm going to bet on this. Friends, that's gambling. There's nothing calculated there. It might be appropriate when you come to know your philosophy to say, I'm going to allocate 20%. So $20,000 is what I'm going to put towards that investment. Now all of a sudden, if that doesn't work out, if I've taken my $100,000, I've allocated over 5 different spots, 5 different properties, 5 different scenarios, then you know what? Things are sometimes going to go south. And if a deal doesn't work out, guess what it means? You lost, but you didn't lose everything because you didn't bet the farm. So proper allocation means put the appropriate amount of resource into a decision, because most of us are actually, we won't want to admit it, we are gamblers at heart, and there's so many of us that will just throw it all in, and we're just praying and hoping this is going to work out.
Can I talk a little crazy here for a second?
Get crazy.
Can I get crazy here for a second? You know, one of the crazy things that is a true belief of mine is if you think it's risky, it will be more risky. If you don't buy into the hype of this is super risky, it will actually lessen the risk for you. And I'll tell you why I believe this. Warren Buffett. You all know who Warren Buffett is, and if you don't, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world. You've probably heard of him or heard from him at some point. Warren Buffett has a financial philosophy, and he talks about going into things with a large margin of safety. Now, he doesn't believe that he can get rid of all risk or that all risk is even bad. He just says, before I do any investment, I make sure there's a large margin of safety. To me, large margin of safety equals low risk. So where the majority of the world believes high return equals high risk, Warren Buffett believes high return equals low risk and calculated risk.
Yeah.
Properly allocated risk.
So here's where the rubber hits the road, right? For just a moment, let's use a real world example. Let's use fiat money and cryptocurrency. Let's talk about Bitcoin.
Oh, we're going there?
Yeah, because a couple years ago, Bitcoin was at $300. Now Bitcoin, it's been up to, I think, as much as $30,000. It's been settling in at this $10,000 mark. And the reality is people that got in at the right time, they have won. And we're not here, by the way, to pass judgment on crypto as being good or bad. But let me share with you the behavior. If I have $10,000 in my bank account and I take all $10,000 and throw it at Bitcoin, then what I'm doing is I'm allocating all of my assets into one thing that I can't control, and it's mania fed. It's driven by people and choices that other people are making, which means it's outside of your control. So if you're thinking, I've convinced myself this is a good investment, so I'm going to put everything into it, that's where you're going to take a bath. Because if it works out, you're going to be thrilled, but you got lucky. You can't claim that. You're a lottery winner, and that will happen if you do proper allocation. And part of that lottery winning is to make up for other investments that you also can't control that don't go well, right? And so the question is, when you have a good investment opportunity put in front of you, how much are you really allocating? Because you don't get to say, well, I'm risk averse, but I'm going to throw it all in. So make sure that it's appropriate. That's what number 1 is. On risk management, number 2 is you got to have a winning strategy. And a winning strategy means I'm looking at putting my money somewhere that makes sense. I've done my due diligence. There's some type of track record. And the riskier it is, the less that you understand it, the less that you should put into it, right? And so your allocation is going to be affected by your personal belief, what you're investing in. Take real estate, for example.
Yeah.
Steven, talk about track record and what that means.
Absolutely. So this winning strategy is so important. Track record. I mean, you want to go and put your money with a group or in a certain area that you know performs over time. I like that you brought up this Bitcoin thing because it's interesting to see Bitcoin has been around now for, 15 years or so. It's been around for quite a while, but it's only been in the last couple years where it's really started to make this massive splash where a lot of people are jumping in because, like you said, you got the hype, you got things are growing and everyone hears the rumors, and so everyone's starting to jump in. And just a little while ago, you saw this massive dip again with Bitcoin where people are like scared to death and they're now pulling out. So although you've got all these different scenarios and all these different cycles that are happening in different types of investments, you want to pick an investment that is even keel. You want to pick an investment that produces over the long term, that's got a 20, 30, 40, 50 year track record. You want to put your money into an investment that is conservative in nature, but gives out great returns. And that's one of the reasons why we've settled on real estate, is because you've got this conservative type of investment that's giving way more than conservative returns. In other words, large margin of safety, but high returns. And that's what you want to really be looking for, that winning strategy.
Yeah, in real estate, when we talk about track record, we've done 3,500 deals. We've done almost $1 billion worth of real estate with thousands of people. Our own houses, the houses with our clients. So there's some track record there.
Yeah.
That's where we like to put the lion's share of our different, as we talk about this investing bucket, that's how we're allocating. And we'll also allocate it over several different properties. And I will invest in other businesses, other companies that don't have a 20, 30, 40, 50 year track record, but I'm going to allocate the appropriate amount. And on something like that, it's got to be money that I'm willing to what? Lose.
Yep.
And if I'm putting aside money that I'm willing to lose and I've allocated only a proper amount, then I've started taking on a better strategy when it comes to my risk management. So number one, proper allocation. Number two is a winning strategy. Number three, Stephen actually started touching on a little bit. It's called seeing it through to the end, because not all investments are, here's my money and then I'm going to wait. Seeing it through means that you're managing your mental state. Yeah. It's exciting when you jump in and you make your initial investment, but when there's that dip, then how do you feel? If you allow circumstance to drive your emotional state, then the reality is when things are up, you're happy, and when things are down, you're pissed. And if you're living life between happy and pissed and you're letting everyone else make that decision, there's a big problem with that. You're going to cloud your judgment, you're going to lack clarity, and then you're going to start making actions on your investment that will hurt it. A decision made in fear will never be the right decision. And so you've got to step out of this world of allowing your circumstance to determine how you feel about things. And instead, you got to choose to actually build your own mental reserves. You got to be educating yourself. That's why we invite people to click the link and come to our 3-day Limitless event. You got to learn how to manage your emotional state, because when you're doing real estate, for example, I remember we had one of our investors that had been investing with us and had gone 3 years and everything was great, and all of a sudden was in this sheer panic one day because tenant moved out and he walked through the house and there was probably $10,000 of damage. Listen, that is a story that has happened before. It's not one that anyone wants to face. And then when you're looking at it straight in the face, here's the question. How are you feeling inside? I'll tell you how he felt that day. He panicked. He lost it. He thought, where am I going to get the money and how am I going to do this? And I never foresaw this happening, or why didn't this happen even earlier? How come it had to, and all of a sudden it turned into all of these scenarios where he lost his certainty that he had just the day before the person moved out, making cash flow, making money, property values, feeling good about his investment. The way you feel about your investment has a lot to do with the performance. Maybe not how other people act on the parts that you can't control, but absolutely on how you act and show up in your own investing, because we see this all the time. The market crashes, people are holding winning real estate, and you know what they'll do? They'll sell at the wrong time. And they will,
and they'll lose.
And they'll lose. They're actually making money.
Yep.
They just needed to hold a little longer, but they will lose. And Stephen and I, we have seen it countless times. And so whatever you're going to invest in, don't think about the beginning and don't just think about the end. Think about who you're going to choose to be with certainty throughout the process. That's why if you add all three of these up, proper allocation, winning strategy, and seeing it through, you're going to see that they work together as a perfect threesome, a tandem, how all three of these work together and ultimately creating a really good outcome. So that, by the way, when the person moves out, why aren't you panicking? Well, number one, I'm managing my state. Number two, I allocated the right amount of resource. And number three, I picked a winning strategy and I was aware that things like this do happen. Well, excellent. Now I don't need to panic and put my investment at risk because I lost my emotional state.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you're utilizing the risk in the proper way. Risk is now equal to winning for you because of those three things. So hope you've liked this. Hope you have learned how to better manage that risk, how to see risk as winning.
I actually don't want to. I want to throw in one last bonus piece of advice. When you make a decision in life, you're going to do something, then be committed to that decision with enough certainty that you don't doubt yourself. Portfolios go to heck in a handbag when you start doubting yourself. But your portfolio, anyone building wealth is going to realize there's good times and bad times. There's times when you're winning and losing. And frankly, a lot of times we're just trying to win more than 50% of the time. In real estate, we figured out how to win like almost all the time. But the reality is it's going to hit the fan and things like that are going to happen. And when it does, who do you choose to be? I'm gonna harken back to my original choice. These days when I make a decision, like just this last week, I made a big financial decision for something that I wanted to do for my business. And it's gonna be a year-long decision, and I was consciously making the decision. I'm choosing right now to feel certain about this choice for 365 days. I'm gonna see it through, no matter the circumstance of what happens, no matter what occurs. I have developed this muscular brain now into a beast that obeys me. And I'm telling it right now, you get to be fully committed and faith-filled and absolutely certain in your choice for the next 365 days. If you will make your investing like that, then I think you're gonna find that your emotional state's gonna be happier, you're gonna have more confidence, and you'll have losing days, but you're not gonna lose your head. So let me ask you, do you like risk? Yes, that's the right answer. You've learned risk is an essential component of getting where you want to go in life, but you need to deal with it appropriately. And today we really enjoyed sharing our 3 steps with you. If you want to have your opportunities expanded, your horizons expanded, and learn more about how we invest nationwide, how we help people with money, without money, how they can get cranking on real estate, go ahead and check out the link up here, go to the website, and check out some of the options that we've prepared that have worked for over 3,500 people on nearly $1 billion of real estate.